Welcome to another episode of Books and Bites. Today, we're looking at a book that has really, honestly, kind of shaped how a lot of people think about relationships. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this one. John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
This book, it really did offer, I think, a really accessible way to kind of frame some of the fundamental differences between men and women, like psychologically and emotionally. And that central idea, right, that men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Men are more focused on the logic and the problem solving and maybe a bit more reserved emotionally, at least in general. And then women, they're from Venus. They're all about emotions and nurturing, open communication. And that really seemed to connect with a lot of people.
Yeah, it really did. And I think it's not about saying like all men are this way and all women are that way, but more just understanding that maybe there's some general tendencies that can lead to those misunderstandings if we're not really aware of them. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Like, how can we kind of explore some of these differences and how can recognizing those actually lead to healthier relationships for you listening? And let's start, I guess, by talking about, just how men and women tend to approach problems.
Right. One of the most interesting things Gray talks about in this book is how men and women often approach challenges because they're so different. And so for men, he says, they need to withdraw. They need to go into their cave, metaphorically speaking, to think through things, on their own, find those solutions independently. That's just their way of focusing and analyzing. Women, though, they're different. Often they seek to discuss their problems, really so that they can gain understanding and feel supported through that verbal processing, having their emotions validated.
I see. So you can see how those two different styles could kind of get, their wires crossed.
Absolutely.
Where a woman might be sharing a problem, looking for that empathy.
Yeah.
And the man, he's coming at it from his Martian perspective. He's going to jump straight to offering advice because to him, that's the most helpful response.
Exactly. In his mind, he's being supportive. He's trying to solve the problem, but she might feel like he's not really listening or understanding how she feels. It can feel dismissive.
Yeah, like he doesn't care about the emotional part of it. He just wants to fix it.
Exactly.
And then the reverse can also happen too, right? When a man kind of retreats into his cave, his partner might feel like, well, he's shutting me out.
Right.
He doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to connect. And her Venusian instinct is going to be, well, I need to reach out. I need to talk. I need to understand what's wrong. Because that's how she processes things.
Yeah, precisely. And this can create this negative cycle where she's pursuing that connection and he just feels like, ugh, I need more space. And so Gray suggests that a key element here is that men really need to understand the importance of active listening, not immediately jumping into problem-solving mode.
Yeah.
Just validating her feelings. That can be incredibly powerful.
Just, I hear you. What you're going through is really hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, women can learn to recognize that, okay, he's withdrawing. This isn't necessarily a rejection.
Yeah.
This is just him. This is how he works through things. And giving him that space can be supportive in its own way.
That's a great point. So we've talked about problem solving. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit and think about, well, how do men and women typically respond to stress, according to John Gray?
Yeah, stress. This is another area where we really see a distinct kind of pattern emerge. When men experience stress, they often cope by withdrawing into solitude. And that might mean different things for different men. Maybe it's going to involve engaging in hobbies, exercising, or maybe just seeking quiet time to reflect or just even distract themselves. It's their way to decompress and recharge their batteries independently. Now, women, when they're stressed, they tend to seek connection. They find relief and support by talking about their stressors, seeking reassurance, and connecting emotionally with others.
Yeah. And again, you can see how these different coping mechanisms could lead to conflict.
Oh, absolutely.
A woman sees her partner withdrawing. She might interpret that as, oh, he's upset with me.
Right.
He doesn't want to be around me. And she's going to try and get closer, ask more questions. But for a man who's already feeling that pressure of stress, that can feel like an added burden.
Exactly. He might feel like his need for space isn't being respected. And at the same time, she feels emotionally abandoned right when she needs that connection the most.
Right. So what does John Gray suggest we do about this?
Well, he really emphasizes the importance of communication. And it doesn't have to be complicated communication. For men, just that simple reassurance, something like, hey, I need a little space to decompress right now, but I'll be back and we can talk later. That can go a long way in alleviating their partner's anxiety.
Absolutely.
And for women, understanding that this withdrawal isn't personal and allowing that cave time can actually help their partner return feeling more refreshed and ready to connect.
And that's a good point. Even just knowing that, like that's coming, can help a woman be like, okay, I know this is part of the process.
Exactly.
I'll come back. All right, so we talk about problem solving, stress. Communication seems to be a big theme here.
It really is.
Let's talk about love. How is love expressed and received? Because John Gray points out some really interesting differences here, doesn't he?
Oh, he absolutely does. He notes that men often express love through actions. And that might be doing things for their partner, providing for them, protecting them. It's a more demonstrated, often unspoken form of care. Women, on the other hand, often express love more verbally and through that emotional connection. So actually saying those words, I love you, offering affection, spending quality time talking and sharing their feelings.
I feel like I've heard this so many times before.
I know.
It's that classic scenario where the man fixes something around the house.
Right.
And in his mind, he's like, I love you. I fixed the leaky faucet. But the woman is thinking, well, you didn't say I love you. You didn't give me a hug. Like, how do I know that you care?
It's that classic disconnect.
Yeah.
Because his Martian expression of love is through service. He's taking care of her needs in a practical way.
Yeah.
Her Venusian need is for that verbal and emotional reassurance. And so you end up with this situation where both people end up feeling unappreciated. She doesn't recognize his actions as love, and he feels like his efforts are unnoticed.
What's the solution? Like, how do we bridge that gap?
Well, Gray suggests that men can make a conscious effort to actually verbalize their feelings more often, to actually say those words, to express their love in a way that she's going to hear it.
To say it out loud.
Yes, to say it out loud. And then women, they can learn to recognize and appreciate the actions that their partners take as genuine expressions of love.
Oh, okay.
Acknowledging that fixing the car or fixing that leaky faucet is his way of saying, I care about you.
Yeah.
That can be incredibly validating for him.
I never thought of it that way.
It's about expanding our understanding of how love can be communicated. It's not just one way.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about learning each other's love languages, I guess, really. So not just how we express love, but also how we receive it. So we've talked about all this, but John Gray also talks about, well, there are some core emotional needs that men and women have. Are there some key distinctions there that we should be aware of?
Yeah, and I think this is a really helpful way to frame it because he's saying, look, women have these fundamental emotional needs like feeling cared for, understood, respected, feeling like they're a priority, which he calls devotion, and then receiving that consistent reassurance of love and commitment. Men, they have core emotional needs too, but they're a little bit different. For them, it's about trust in their abilities and their decisions, acceptance for who they are, and then appreciation for their efforts, admiration for their strengths, and encouragement in their endeavors.
Wow. And those are really different.
They are different.
But it's really interesting how those lists highlight different priorities.
Absolutely.
Like what makes each gender feel emotionally fulfilled in a relationship?
We try and fulfill our partner's needs based on what would make us feel loved and valued, rather than understanding what truly resonates with them. So, for example, a man might try to solve his partner's problems.
Let me fix that for you.
Because that's how he would want to be supported. But what she really needs is that empathetic listening.
Just to feel heard.
Yeah. And on the other side, a woman might offer unsolicited advice or criticism thinking that she's being helpful when what her partner truly needs is that admiration and acceptance.
Like, good job, honey. I'm so proud of you.
Precisely.
That kind of thing. Okay, interesting. So it really underscores the importance of understanding and actively working to meet those specific needs. And they're often different.
Absolutely. It requires stepping outside of our own perspective and learning what truly makes our partner feel loved and valued. And that's what leads to a deeper intimacy and connection.
Now, relationships, they're not always sunshine and roses.
Right.
We all know that. There are ups and downs. There are conflicts.
Yeah.
John Gray talks about how men and women tend to navigate those conflicts differently.
Yes.
He introduces this concept of the rubber band and the wave. Can you explain those a little bit?
Yeah, so the rubber band effect, that describes this pattern that Gray observed in men where they have this cycle of wanting closeness followed by a need to pull away and reestablish their independence before they can kind of come back to that intimacy. And it's not necessarily about conflict or dissatisfaction. It's just a natural rhythm for them.
Okay, so I can see how that would cause problems if he's pulling away and she's seeing that as rejection.
Exactly. If a woman pursues during this withdrawal phase, it can actually make the man feel overwhelmed and prolong his need for space. So Gray suggests that for women, understanding this cycle and allowing that space is key.
Yeah.
While for men, offering a brief reassurance before they withdraw, like, hey, I just need a little time, but I'll be back. We can talk about this later.
Yeah.
That can prevent so many misunderstandings.
So what about the wave effect? That's for women, right?
Yeah, the wave effect refers to the fluctuating nature of women's emotions. They experience those highs and lows, much like a wave, right? And a crash can occur when their emotional needs aren't being met. That's when you get those feelings of being overwhelmed, insecure, or sad.
Okay.
And I think that a very typical Martian response would be to try and fix whatever problem is causing the crash.
Don't be sad. We can solve this.
Offering solutions. But often what a woman needs during that wave crash is simply to feel heard, validated, and reassured. Trying to immediately solve the problem can make her feel like her emotions are being dismissed.
It's like it's not taking her seriously.
Exactly. And so Gray's advice for men is to practice patience and active listening during those times, and for women to communicate their needs clearly but without blame.
Without blaming him for how she's feeling.
Exactly. It's about providing support through that emotional ebb and flow.
That makes sense. So we've talked about the rubber band, the wave. We're almost done here. But John Gray has one more really big idea that I think is so important to talk about, and that is the love bank. What is that all about?
The love bank, such a great analogy, right? It's this metaphor for the emotional reserves within a relationship.
Okay.
And it's pretty simple. Positive interactions, acts of love, understanding, support, those are all deposits into the love bank.
Okay.
Negative interactions, conflict, unmet needs, those are withdrawals. And so the goal is to maintain a positive balance.
Got it. So how do we make those deposits? How do we keep that love bank full?
Well, Gray emphasizes the importance of frequent small gestures. That could be a kind word, a thoughtful act, just taking a moment to connect.
Little things add up.
They really do. And then understanding and respecting those gender differences that we've been talking about, because that helps prevent unnecessary withdrawals from those misunderstandings and conflict.
Right. So it's not just doing the nice things, it's also avoiding the negative things.
Exactly. And then regularly expressing appreciation for your partner in ways that resonate with their specific needs. That's key for keeping the love bank full.
So it's the consistent everyday efforts to understand and appreciate your partner's unique emotional world.
Absolutely. It's the cumulative effect of those positive interactions and a conscious effort to minimize the negative ones. That's what leads to a thriving relationship.
And to delve deeper into all of these concepts, grab a copy of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, using the link in the description. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe to Books and Bite for more deep dives into fascinating ideas. But in the meantime, what's one small action you could take today to make a deposit in a significant relationship's love bank? Keep in mind everything we've talked about, those differing needs, and see what you can come up with.